back to the Sanditon Chronicles. It's your host, Maureen, and today we are discussing Lady Denham. She's another one of my favorites, and I think honestly it has more to do with Annie Reid than it does with Lady Denham, because let's face it, Lady Denham is a bit much. I think that Lady Denham has a lot of layers to her, right? I think that she has a lot of really good points as well as a lot of really crazy points. I think that what she portrays is not who she is. And that's what the show does so well. That's what the writers do so well, and that's what the actors and actresses do so well. They put so much into these characters that you can physically see the details to them. You can physically see the layers to these characters. They aren't one-dimensional. They aren't... And I think this is why people get so crazy over the show. And I guess I have to lump myself in on that a little bit. But it's because these parts are played so well. And they're played as if they're real humans. Like these actors and actresses are tapping into that character. And not only are they taking what the writers and the directors are saying about this character, but they're using their own intuition to really make that character their own. So they're taking complete ownership of that character. And I really love seeing that take place, and I think that's one of the things that this show does really, really well is give those characters their layers, give those characters their dimensions, so that you feel like they're family, or you feel like they're your friends, or you feel like they're your enemy. That word, you actually feel like he's personally attacked you. With Lady Denham, you feel that pineapple luncheon, like you feel it in your bones, but then you also feel her with Esther in your bones. Right? So there's these different layers, and it makes them more human, and that's why to us they're almost more than characters, and not in a crazy way, not in a I need to be locked up somewhere because I can't tell the difference between reality and fiction. That's not what I mean, but I mean that these characters have become real to us because the cast has made them real. So I think that's with Lady Denham especially. She has these layers that make her human, where she has this innate vulnerability to her that I love. I think it's beautiful the way Annie Reid portrays it, and I love what Crystal Clark said about her too. She said something along the lines of, "No one can deliver a one-line set down like Annie Reid can," and it's true. I mean, there's that one comment, and I know that Janice and I talked about this in our recap, where she said something along the lines of, Mrs. Griffith said, "Better late than never." And Lady Denham says, "Slightly better. Let's go." She doesn't say let's go, but she's ushering them into the luncheon at that point. So she's got this snark and this sarcasm to her. And honestly, that's how I communicate in everyday life. You guys don't get to see that side of me on this podcast very much. If you watch our other podcasts, it's like a running joke that I'm the arrogant one, that I am the one who's never wrong, and so I'm very sarcastic by nature, and so I connect with that part of Lady Denham very much, where she's just, and that's not even sarcasm, but I think that kind of humor is really something that I connect with. That kind of humor is really something that I enjoy. I enjoy watching it play across the screen. I enjoy talking to people like that in real life. I think they're hilarious. Like, if I were Georgiana, I would have laughed out loud. So there are these aspects to her, but then you see later on in that episode where she's at the luncheon and she's clearly being racist. I don't think Lady Denham is a racist, but she was definitely acting that way when she was talking about the slave trade. And obviously Lady Denham at that time, for her station, for her skin color, for what the gentry was afforded then, there probably was a little racism to her. She obviously wanted Edward to marry Georgiana, so the racism isn't that deep. But there is still the sense of, don't rise above who you are. I know who your mother was, that slave. And so you have that part of you like, oh man, I want to slap you so hard right now. You see her with Tom, and you have those moments of that. But I really think the most clarifying moment for Lady Denham for me was when she was sitting down and talking with Esther, playing cards in episode 8. It was after Babington had come and taken her out on the carriage ride on the beach, and Lady Denham and her are playing cards, or no, she just sat down to give her tea and she asked how it was, and Esther's trying to play it off like it was nothing, and she says, he's a fool. Lady Denham says, he is not a fool, and she says, he is a fool if he thinks I could ever love him the way he loves me. She says other things, but that's the part I want to hone in on. And Lady Denham says, it is much better to love than be loved, to be loved than to love. And she shares that story about who she is, and that heartbreak has shaped her. That heartbreak has almost defined her as a person, where she was like, okay, I have to become this closed off person. I have to become this person who is in control of her own destiny. I'm never going to let anyone else control my destiny again, because when I did that, it caused a problem. When I did that, it caused pain. When I did that, it came back to bite me. No one will ever control me again. And so even when she's wrong, she fights for control. With that doctor, I don't think she was really wrong, but I think that she could feel her control slipping. If there's a doctor there that's going to override her, there's a doctor there that's going to take Tom's allegiance sort of from her to this doctor, that her control is going to slip. And I think that you see that in bits and pieces throughout. And I know that obviously it's a blind person could see that Lady Denham likes control, right? That's not a shocking revelation. But I think that you could see the layers of why she needs that control in these little moments. Because there isn't really a real reason for her to deny it the doctor. Honestly, that's going to bring people into the town. That's going to make the town profitable. That's going to earn them money. So really, what is her reason for not allowing that doctor to come for so long? What is her reason for fighting that for so long? There has to be something deeper than, no, because I'm bossy. There's more to this character than that. And I think it's because she could feel, I think she kind of felt that if this doctor comes in, my control slips, and I need to be in full and complete and total control of everything that happens here, because that's the only way that I know how to survive. And she's elderly now. When that heartbreak happened, she was a young girl. She says, you know what girls are, and she uses girls specifically. She doesn't say young women. She says, you know what girls are. And so she's been this way for more than half of her life at this point. How do you change that personality? You can't. It's embedded in her. It's how her brain is trained to view things, how to look at things, how to respond to things, how to act on things. And so it's not like she can just flip the switch and be like, you know what? I don't need to control this. It's almost a compulsion at this point, that anytime there's a moment where control is slipping from her, there's like alarm bells that go off in her head. And I love, there's that one scene in episode 8 when she's haranguing Tom for the fire with no insurance. And she does this little, it's a facial expression. It's a nonverbal, of course, my sweet spot. And she does this thing where she's so angry that this has slipped from her. She's so angry that this buffoon has made this decision, and you know that's what she's thinking. She's so angry that this money she entrusted to someone else to take care of just proved to her all along that she really is the one who needs to be in control. That she does this like little thing with her lip where she's like, and like she breathes deep, but her lip twitches and it kind of closes in on itself. And she's trying to like struggle to keep her head this way instead of like turn away. Like you can almost see like the war of control being waged in her body. You can almost see it physically, where her head almost like tries to turn to the left, but she pulls it back and like faces him dead on, and you just see like the lip twitching, the lip moving. And I think that's so brilliantly done. I think another scene that is really telling with Lady Denham. My coffee cup is very full. That was a whisper. Sorry. My coffee cup is very full. I had to go downstairs to get some because I was making it when I started recording this. You guys know I can't have a podcast without coffee. It is impossible. But the other scene I love, I think is really telling of Lady Denham, is again in episode 8. And I think there's a lot of them that are pretty telling. But in episode 8, when Edward comes to the ball and he's insisting to Esther that she loves him. She knows she does. Just say you love me. You know, that whole scene. Afterwards, or even during that conversation, when you see Lady get off her chair, that's kind of, you know, the throne in the back of the ballroom. when you see her get off that chair and walk towards Esther, and she has this look of absolute, almost like she understands exactly what she's going through, what she's feeling. But it's also like, it's just dawned on her, this was the problem. This is what was going on. And so she's very intelligent, but the look of understanding that crosses her face. And when Mrs. Griffiths goes up to her and says, I wouldn't judge her too harshly. And Lady Denham says, I don't judge her at all, which is a striking contrast to how we have portrayed her this entire time. Because I think once we see that pineapple luncheon episode, our instinct is to be like, oh, she is a judgmental, racist little bitty kind of thing. And that's not who she is at all. I do think she is viewed as eccentric, and I don't know that she really is, or if that's just a persona she puts on. But in her fight for control, you also see that she needs to be revered. So I think that incident with that man when she was young, her first love, not only did it show her that, hey, I have to control everything, or I'm going to be losing everything again, I'm going to be in pain again, I'm going to be suffering and miserable again, but I think it also showed her that she desires that reverence. That man kept her waiting for his affection, like a dog, she says, like one of his dogs. She wants that reverence. I think after that, she never allowed herself to feel emotionally attached or connected to any man, even her husband, probably especially her husband, actually. And she's made it so much a business arrangement that she hasn't been able to be revered. She hasn't been able to be looked to for guidance, for affirmation, for anything that would give you respect and esteem. She craves that. And you can kind of see that when she's talking with Clara about the pineapple. When she, how does she call her? Oh my gosh, when Clara says, is that a bomb? And I forget how Lady Denham says it. Something along the lines of how naive she is and how much she pities her, or something like that. Just basically about how her upbringing has never allowed her to see the finer things in life. And that's why Lady Denham brings Clara on. I mean, Clara is there as a showpiece for Lady Denham. There's no love lost between Clara and Lady Denham, and I think that's because Lady Denham knows who Clara is. Not in exact particulars, because I don't think she would have ever let her in her house if she knew. And honestly, and it sucks to say this, but in that time period, if she knew how she was sexually abused, she wouldn't even let her in the house. Because that's seen as a black mark on the woman back then, right? Not just the man. I'm sure the man would be seen as a reprobate too from Lady Denham, but Clara certainly would not have been allowed in the house. So she doesn't know in exact particulars who she is, but she does know, she's smart enough to understand that Clara is manipulating and conniving. And obviously she knows that money is the aspect there. She knows it. She even says that to Charlotte on their first meeting. So Clara's not there out of some familial devotion or familial obligation. Clara is there as a showpiece so that people can say, oh, look how good you are. Look at what you've done for this girl. Look at that. And so she can say, you see it when she has Clara to play piano in front of people. And she says, she's basically saying, look at what I've done for her. Look at all these things. Clara, yeah, go play. Go do it. Show them what opportunities I've afforded you. So she has that desire to be revered. And I think that's the other reason why bringing on Dr. Fuchs is kind of a fearful thing for her. Because not only does that mean control is slipping, but Tom's not going to turn to an elderly woman for advice. He's going to turn to a doctor for advice. She wants to be seen as an authority on all things. And I think I'm going to draw this comparison again because this is what I do. I mean, Pride and Prejudice was my first literary love. It really was. And it stood the test of time for me. It's a yearly retreat since I was, 12? I'm not going to tell you how many years that is. Because that's not how I operate. We're going to keep that a secret and make you think I'm super youthful. And I think that my actions will probably show that I'm youthful and childish, so we're going to keep that. My email signature on my other podcast is grown child. So there you go. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But it's been years, decades. So Lady Catherine, that comparison can be drawn, right, between Lady Catherine and Lady Denham. Both kind of ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing with the pineapple with Arthur and that scene when they're at the mantle and Tom says, oh, she's a ridiculous old woman. Lady Catherine is obviously just as ridiculous. But Lady Catherine, she's almost, I think she is genuinely mean and taking control and trying to control others because she arrogantly, genuinely believes she is that wise. She truly believes she is that good. And look at my station. Look at my house. Look at all I have. Of course I'm better than you. Of course you need to listen to me. And she's arrogant enough to believe that Elizabeth Bennet is just going to bow to her every whim. All Lady Catherine has to do is say, don't marry him. And Elizabeth will say, okay, you're right, my liege. I won't marry him. So Lady Catherine, I mean, I've heard that parallel drawn between Lady Catherine and Lady Denham. I had, when I first watched this, the very, very first time, and the first time only, that thought popped in my head. Oh, she's kind of like the Lady Catherine in this piece. But Lady Denham is not at all like Lady Catherine. Because Lady Denham, she takes control and tries to control others because there's something that she has been broken by that has caused her, that has trained her brain to want that, to crave that, to need it. It's not about, I'm the one who should be controlling things because I'm smarter. It's, I need to control things or I'm going to split apart, almost. Maybe that's too extreme. But I think that that's genuinely what it started off as, especially when we see, and that's a brilliant thing about how this was written too, is because you see this build up, you see these subtle changes in Lady Denham's character, right? Like when you see her at first and she's this abrasive, overbearing woman who just seems cold. Like when she first meets Charlotte, she says nothing kind. She tells Charlotte where to go sit and how to go do it, who to go talk to. She says all the things about her family right in front of Charlotte the first time they meet. Oh, they just want my money. What do you think? Yes, you're right. I am my own woman. When they're walking on the beach, she basically tells her, listen, you're not enough for Edward, so stay away from him. So we see that part of her. But then as the show goes on, we get more attached to her. It's hard to really tell why you're getting attached to her, but you know that you are. And then she makes you laugh, and she's witty, and she's sarcastic, and as the show goes on, the character is built. The character of Lady Denham is built up. Not built up like, oh, but like she's built. Right? We have this slate rock that we start with. And then they start putting the forms of the house around her, right? Then they start putting the walls up, and then they start putting the ceilings, and then they start blocking off rooms. She's built as the series goes on. And it really genuinely is in episode 8 when you understand why she is the way she is. You have inklings. You can guess why a woman of her standing, of her nature, that she is a woman itself, who needs control, who craves people to tell her how good she is, how smart and wise she is. You can guess at why she craves that, but it's not truly until episode 8 when you're like, oh, okay, I get that connection now. So she was written so well, and Annie Reid did that so well that she was able to pace it at the right pace that kept you, every time she's on the screen, you're drawn to her like, okay, I've got to figure this out. She's like an enigma, this puzzle that I need to understand. And so every scene she's in, you're trying to pull back another layer and figure out what's going on, because she's not outrightly, she's not outright mean. She's not outright callous. There's always these undertones of generosity and kindness, always. So there's that scene when she finds out that Esther says no to Babington, right? In episode, 6? Yes, 6, because 7's the regatta. So in episode 5, because we don't see him in episode 6. So at the end of the cricket match, when she calls him back to his house, or her house, and she says no, and then Lady Denham finds out in episode 6 that she said no. And you hear almost this panic in Lady Denham's voice. And that's the first time you actually see, okay, she's more than just meddling in their life so they don't take her money. She genuinely cares. And she says that to her. Who will care for you, Esther? You have the Denham name, but you have no title. You have no money. Who will take care of you? And she's almost desperate to get Esther to understand that point. You can hear the raw emotion in her voice as she almost begs Esther, take this man. He can comfort you. He can care for you. I want you to be cared for. You can hear it in her voice. And so then you perk up there, right? Like, okay. So where is this coming from? And so we watch her just change little by little by little by little by little. And then in episode 8, she finally lays it all bare. And there's so much revelation in episode 8 for all the characters, but certainly for Lady Denham. There's so much revelation about her character in episode 8. And of course, we see in episode 7 when she is to be respected and revered. Not because she's so wise and she's such a good counselor and she's so responsible with her money, but the way she handles the Esther and Edward situation, she is deserving of respect and reverence. But that is straight Lady Denham. She's not putting on this persona. She's not fighting just to fight. She's not fighting with Tom over refusing a doctor when it would be beneficial for the town, because it was a nonsensical thing to fight about. She was just being authentically herself. When she calls them out, you feeble parasites. And she even gets that last dig in there, and I'll have to change the dining room floor. It's been indelibly stained. Like, there's just, it's raw Lady Denham. She's angry, rightfully so. She is rightfully angry. She calls them out on all of their sins. She keeps them accountable to what they've done. She holds them to the standard that they themselves have set. And she kicks them out. But even with Esther, like, she doesn't fully reward Esther right then. She just says, you are suddenly my only valid heir, basically. The only one who can be a contender for my inheritance, because you're the only one who isn't completely destroyed by debauchery. You're not the one completely destroyed and taken over by wickedness. And so we see her grow. We see her, I don't know that, grow, I think grow is the wrong word. I think we just see her layers get pulled back bit by bit by bit. And I think it's mainly Esther who pulls it back, because Esther and her are extremely similar. And so let's talk about the first time we meet Lady Denham. That was really hard for me to say. So we see her with Charlotte, and of course, the first time we see Lady Denham, this is Jane Austen's writing. Now, know that when they've done the first 2 chapters, to translate book to movie, they usually have to alter to make screen fit better. And so I believe, again, I've only read the first 12 chapters twice, and it wasn't recently. That's not enough to remember. Remember COVID brain. And I read it before COVID brain. So it's like once I got COVID, all necessary information stayed. And then things that the world thinks are unnecessary, like, oh, no, I'm going to set that aside. So I don't fully remember, but I do believe there were minute details that had to be changed to go on screen. But overall, you're seeing Lady Denham. Like, the minute details, by the way, are like, they took away one of her siblings in the movie, or in the show. She had one more sibling in the book. Like, I don't understand why that change was made, but that was made. So we are seeing her as Jane Austen wrote her, right? And Jane Austen typically, I mean, this is her MO. She has one matriarch of the family, because her books are female heavy, right? She's a woman writing from a woman's perspective. She writes men very well. She does. But she writes about female heroines. Not heroines. She writes about female heroines. She writes about female protagonists. She even writes female antagonists. They're female heavy. And so in most of her books, she does have this matriarchal figure, whether she's a matriarch of the family or not. There's always sort of this matriarchal figure who is almost cruel, who is, I'm trying to think of a word and all the people coming to mind are like Lady Catherine and I forget the woman from Sense and Sensibility. What is her name? Edward's sister. Oh my gosh, what is her name? Edward's sister. I can't remember her name. Anyway, there's always a woman in there. And Lady Denham, I think, starts off a little bit that way. But remember that though this is based off of Jane Austen work, and though the first I think it's just the first episode covers the first 12 chapters, right? Part of the second maybe covers it. I can't remember. I remember there being an invitation to the pineapple lunch, I think, in the book, but I don't remember there actually being a pineapple lunch in the book. I don't think they went in that far in the book. So either, anyway, the first episode or first episode and a half are Jane Austen's, but the rest of it is not a Jane Austen work. It is inspired by her work. Okay, so they got to alter this matriarchal character that Jane Austen typically writes, and I think they did a little bit. I think they broke from script a bit when they wrote Lady Denham, because they gave Lady Denham these layers of emotion and generosity and kindness and genuine brokenness and struggle, where her other matriarchs don't typically have that. So when we see her in episode 1, we're seeing a more authentic Jane Austen Lady Denham. But what's interesting about this, and what I like that they've done, and I've kind of touched on this a little bit, is that she starts off with your typical Jane Austen, but they slowly built her up so that it made sense from where she started to where she ended, right? It made sense. That alteration, it flowed well together, because that's how they wrote it. It wasn't like, okay, this is Lady Denham here in Jane Austen, and bam, here's our Lady Denham. It wasn't like that. It wasn't an abrupt change. There was a build up to this character. There was a build up in the writing of sort of making her more human. Because I don't relate to Lady Catherine at all. I just want to punch her in the face all the time. Edward's sister. Oh man, would I like to slap that lady. So, Lady Denham, in the beginning, I could see that she was going to be one. I was like, and that's where I do the comparison the first time I watched it. Was, okay, this is going to be our Lady Denham character, or our Lady Catherine character. And so I was kind of set up to be like, okay, I'm not going to like her. But the more she came on screen, the more I actually liked her, because she is more human. She's more alive than some of the other characters. Not that Jane Austen writes people who don't have life or doesn't write layers of them, because she does. But I think she intentionally draws that parallel of there's a clear protagonist and a clear antagonist, and sometimes your mind will switch, but it's only because you've been wrong about them, not because they've genuinely switched all the time. Although with Elizabeth and Darcy, you see their growth. With Lady Catherine, she never really alters. Wickham, we have a soft spot for him in the beginning of the book in Pride and Prejudice. We love Wickham, but then there's that abrupt change where you realize, oh, I was completely wrong about him. No, it's not that he grew, it's that I was completely wrong. Okay, so let's switch. He's a bad guy now. Darcy and Elizabeth are the ones who and I don't think they alter that much. I think that they just have come to realize the truth about people. And so they've grown, but they haven't altered. But in this series, these writers have really made it their own. Because like I said, it's Jane Austen inspired. These writers on Sanditon, they've taken this beautiful work from this beautiful mind of this revered, loved, adored, almost worshipped author. And they've made it their own while still staying true to her. And that is a hard feat. And you see that in Lady Denham's character. I don't think we're ever truly wrong about her. But we're never truly right about her either, I don't think. And I think that comes with watching it play out obsessively a little bit. Let's be honest. We're all a little bit obsessed with this show. Who posted this? I think it was... Oh, man, who was it? I'm going to get it wrong. If you listen to this and you're on Twitter, call me out. Oh, my gosh, who was it? I want to say Tatiana. But I think it's... Her initials are T.O. Tahira Osmond? Something like that. But she put on Twitter, I saw it yesterday, where she wrote, my husband just told me that I was obsessed with this show. And then people were like, putting memes in, like, is he just now figuring this out? Like, so we're all a little obsessed with this show. So the more you watch it, the more you understand things. And like what I like to do, and this is why I came to where I am with Lady Denham, because I'll watch it once through, right? Just watching it, and I don't like pay attention to anything else other than what's happening on the screen, what my eyes are supposed to focus on. I'll watch it through a second time, and I'll really watch everything about the characters, not just the words they're saying, but I'll really dig in. The third time I watch it, I'll watch all the background things. The fourth time, the tone, the body language. So every watch for me has a different purpose. And as we obsessively watch these shows, We'll pick up on things we didn't pick up on before. We'll see things we didn't see before, understand things we didn't understand. And that's good writing. That is a sign of good writing and good acting and really just a really skilled set of people working together. So it's with Lady Denham, we really see how Annie Reid is in there. We see the writers in there. We see the directors in there. And I love that we see, in the very first scene we see of Lady Denham, she's that hard, overbearing, abrupt, way too honest person, right? And in the end, the last time we see her is she's being completely silly. Well, not the last time we see her, she's kind of digging the knife in our hearts by making Sydney talk to Charlotte. But I'm going to choose to ignore that part. We're going to go to the church scene where she's like, I lent her that tiara, you know. I hope I get it back. I think we go from that hardened, abrupt person to this lovable, silly character. And that's what Joy does to Lady Denham. And Joy allows her to drop her walls. And I think the one that she really cared about was Esther, because I think she could see herself in there. I think that she could see a lot of who Esther was as who she was as a young girl, as a young woman. Esther is her. And I think that she could see, I mean, she's not stupid. She could see that Edward was kind of useless. But he was her relation, and she owed it to him to direct him and guide him and make sure he didn't become a bumbling buffoon and destroy the family name. Not totally successful there, but she tried. And so I think with Esther, I think she genuinely had a soft spot for Esther, especially once she found out that Esther could inspire someone like Babington. It became a whole different scenario, right? And so once Esther is married and taken care of, she's able to let some of her walls down. And I think the other thing too is that it was a love match for Esther. Yes, Esther didn't love him the way he loved her when they got married. But I think Lady Denham was confident that it would turn into that. She saw how happy Esther was. She saw it. Anyone could see it. As I've said before in this episode, a blind man could see how happy Esther was that day. She was overjoyed to be marrying him. It wasn't just a business arrangement. And I think that allowed Lady Denham to kind of be a little more silly, right? To be a little more vulnerable. She had more room and capacity to do that, because no longer would Esther end up alone. No longer would she watch Esther be all the things that she wished she wasn't. That Lady Denham wished Lady Denham wasn't. As she watched Esther say no, I think when she got mad at her when she said no to Babington the first time, I don't think she realized that what had happened, that Esther was really in love with Edward. I don't think she fully realized that. But I think she did understand that that Esther was looking for a love match. And so when Esther said no to Babington, I think Lady Denham could see her own mistakes written all over Esther. And I think that she desperately didn't want Esther to go through those things. Yes, she's prickly. Yes, she pokes at people. She tries to run and control people. I think, to be fair though, I think Tom needs some reining in, and I think Lady Denham loves to do it. And honestly, she's speaking his language, right? Because the way to get Tom to listen is to put money under his nose. Not because he's greedy, but because he needs money. And I think she understood that that's all I have to do to get him to do what I say, to bend to my whim, to focus on me, is to wave money at him. And so she does. But she doesn't really do that with anybody else. She doesn't wave money at anybody else. She's not even really holding it over Esther and Edward and Clara. I mean, she doesn't. When does she ever say that, hey, you two are bidding for this, or you three are bidding for this, and one of you is going to end up with my inheritance? She doesn't ever explicitly say that, but what she does do is continuously try to marry them off to wealthy people. I think that would be a pretty indication for Edward and Clara and Esther that, you're not getting this money. In fact, the one person she didn't try to marry off was Clara. But Edward and Esther, she continually tried to marry off. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that Edward and Esther had her name. Well, the name she married into. It's interesting because Clara actually has her maiden name. So you would think that would have a bearing on how she views things, but it doesn't. Because again, Clara is like Tom, completely and wholly dependent on Lady Denham. In fact, Tom says that when he says she is a fool. She's a ridiculous old woman, but she holds the fate of Sanditon in her hands. He's basically saying, yes, I realize that she's ridiculous and she can be petty and mean-spirited, but she can control everything. She's got it all. She's the master of ceremonies here. But I think, and we can see too, like when Esther goes up to, when Dr. Fuchs was there, and Esther walks up to her and says, everyone's saying how charitable you're being. I believe Lady Denham wants people to tell her how good she is for taking in Clara. I believe she wants people to tell her how good she's done for Clara. As in, oh yeah, she can play piano, she's refined, she could make an eligible match now because she's with you. Like that kind of accolade. She craves it, she wants it, she needs it, she desires it. But notice that she doesn't want to give charity to anybody. Part of her, I think, feels that I had to learn this way. Everyone else needs to too. I'm not just going to hand things out. I work for what I have, so do you. Work for it. And so when Esther says, you know, everyone's saying how charitable you're being, and she says, I abhor charity. It gives you nothing. I don't think that's coming from a place of meanness. I think that's genuinely coming from a place of, if you are just handed everything, you'll never actually have anything. You will constantly be beholden to the people who you are trying to get handouts from. You will never be able to function on your own. You'll never be able to make decisions on your own. You need to function on your own. I'm not giving you anything. Figure it out and do your work. You have to put in the work or you're not going to have anything. And I think that that's a really soft spot for her. I think that she does want that in Clara, but I think that Lady Denham also sees, and I think that's why she prefers Esther to Clara, honestly, is because she can see that Clara is looking for someone to just hand her things. Granted, we've talked about Clara. Clara is a mixed bag because Clara, I think she does deserve to be handed something. She's had so much taken from her by force. Literally by force. She's had so much mentally and physically stolen from her. Abused and beaten out of her. She's had so much stripped away from her that I think someone needs to hand that girl something. But again, Lady Denham doesn't know about all this stuff. Whether it's willfully not know or just not known, I don't know. I have a feeling she genuinely doesn't know. But she still sees that Clara is conniving and trying to manipulate and trying to just get Lady Denham to hand her things and to just be like, oh, here you go, have everything you want. And Lady Denham is refusing to do that because that's not where goodness comes from. That's not how it works. Whereas Esther, Edward is the schemer. Esther's never really the schemer except for that scene where she says how charitable you are. But Esther, honestly, I don't think she's ever really truly cared about the money. I think she just wants Clara gone because she sees her as competition in every way. And I think Lady Denham can kind of respond to that, where Esther is her own person. Esther makes decisions. Esther's strong. She is independent. And Lady Denham sees that. And that's why she listens to what Esther says. And I think that's the biggest issue between them, is that Lady Denham sees that Clara is this manipulative handout girl. And Esther is a strong woman who is fighting for what she believes is actually hers. Because honestly, the money Lady Denham has is Denham money. She married into it. So Lady Denham responds to people who are stronger. But I think the reason I point that out is because I know I said earlier that she wants people to tell her how generous and how good she is. But yet, when Esther says, you're so charitable, she chafes at that. Like, no, I am not charitable. Nuh-uh. That was really kind of Valley Girlish, sorry. But I think that really said something to her because she doesn't believe in charity because of what she has learned in life. Which is that don't expect anybody to give you anything because no one will ever give you anything. Not truly. I expected this man of my youth to give me a marriage, to give me love and affection, and I was just a pawn to him. Do not accept charity. Do not give charity because it does not prepare you. It does not benefit you. It does not give you anything that is good or true. I think that's Lady Denham's thought here. And I think that's why that word is what gets her, because she wants people to tell her how good she is. And that's how Esther starts off, right? And Lady Denham is like, yep, that's right. But then she uses that word charity, and Lady Denham abruptly changes her tune. So I think that that's genuinely why she reacts the way she does. I don't know where you guys are, but it's winter here. It's not that, we don't have any snow on the ground, but it's a little chilly, and this coffee is really nice and warm, and this cup is huge. Like, I don't know if you can like see, this is the size of the cup. Almost the size of my head. And it's glorious, but it's nice and warm. So I keep holding up in front of the camera in front of my face. Sorry, but my fingers are freezing. So I really do like Lady Denham's character. I think not only is she interesting, not only is she funny, and she is funny. I mean, she has those one-liners, like when when she's at the pineapple luncheon, and there's not much to be redeemed by that is redeemable about Lady Denham at the luncheon. But when she looks at Edward and she's talking to Georgiana, and she says, with anyone who has a title and a leaky roof, makes me laugh every time. With of course, the line I brought up earlier of slightly better. That's hilarious. When John says, we couldn't have done this without you, and she says, well, of course you couldn't. Like, she's funny. And I think, I don't think it's intentional, because in that time, I don't think it was really, and that's the other thing too, is that at that time, it wasn't really like, women were like, yeah, female power, the future is female. That wasn't the thing then. It was, women were beholden to their husbands. Husbands had priority. Any of your money went to a husband. Any of your property went to a husband. If you had sons and daughters, the property your kids inherited went to the sons first. Before, if you had a daughter, yes, it would go to her, if that's all you had. But it always went to the sons first. Even if there was the oldest daughter, younger son, went to the son. It was a male-having society, male-dominated society, male-centered society. And look at Lady Denham, who made her own way by being calculated, not in a bad way, but in like a savvy way, by choosing her course, by choosing to be in control, by choosing what she could handle and what she wanted and taking it. That's who she was. And then she became this figurehead for this town. She became the boss of this town. So she is this character who's fun to watch, who's different from the norm, who's not your typical Lady Catherine style character, who's not your typical matriarch who is out to ruin people's lives, who is out to just be malicious for maliciousness' sake. She is this character who is broken, who is flawed, and she knows she's flawed, so she works to protect herself. She understands to some extent, at least, that she is broken, and she tries to heal that by protecting herself and never letting herself get down that way. She does genuinely try to help Edward and Esther to figure out what she's figured out. Edward doesn't want to do anything but take her money. He doesn't want to be functional. He doesn't want to marry. He doesn't want to do anything except be handed money. Clara wants her to just hand the money over. I don't think she really even wants to marry either, but to Clara, I think marriage is a whole different bag. It's just another way to be abused by a man. It's just another way to give more of herself over to a man. And I think Clara has a little bit of Lady Denham in that she wants control. But she too is expecting a handout. So Lady Denham sees all these people around her who are like that, and Esther is the one that she truly wants to actually help, because Esther isn't like Edward and Clara. She isn't sniveling. She isn't conniving. She's not manipulative. She's honest, unflinchingly so. And I think that really resonates with Lady Denham, and that's why she tries to help her more than the others. I mean, yes, she's given Edward a chance, like, here, marry these people. Just get over it, marry them. But it's Esther who becomes her focus, because Esther is the one who doesn't have artifice. And that resonates with Lady Denham, because she does not like being lied to. She doesn't like being deceived. And I have to imagine that stems from this act where this guy just kept her hanging on until someone better came along with no real intentions. He was conniving. He was manipulative. I think that's almost like a trigger for her. But I think Lady Denham really, really respects people who can be honest and who can be, I wouldn't call Esther vulnerable or open. She's very closed off. But Esther never hides her disdain. And I think Lady Denham actually admires that, where you're not just a simpering fool. You're not a woman who is just laughing at every joke somebody makes or who is fawning over every guy. I think Lady Denham really respects her because Esther is very, very open about her dislike and her distaste. She does not try to simper and fawn. And that is something Lady Denham truly respects, because Lady Denham has never been that. So I love that character. I can't wait to see what she brings to the table in season 2 and 3. I mean, Annie Reid's going to be spectacular no matter what she does. But I think watching her in season 2 and 3, I think she's going to be a protector for Esther. I said it before, I'll say it again. If they kill off Babs, I'm going to riot. I'm going to get a petition together and get people to riot. But I think that Esther's going to come back into town, likely pregnant, if not already with a baby. And I think Lady Denham is going to help her. I think we're going to see Lady Denham taking a more active role in Sanditon instead of just letting Tom do his business. I think Lady Denham is going to oversee someone who's going to run the town, or run at least the finances. I think Tom will still be in charge of the build, in charge of the building up of Sanditon, but I don't think anyone's going to let him be in charge of the money again. So he's going to have a manager. I think Tom is going to have a manager, and I think Lady Denham is going to be heavily involved in choosing that manager, instructing that manager, and I think this manager is going to be one who is a lot like Charlotte, who's just going to be like, yeah, Lady Denham, you're right, but, still doing what he does. I think he's going to be that kind of person. I think Lady Denham's really going to get along with him. I think we'll see that. I think we'll see her take a more involved role, which might drive Tom crazy, but I think that having the weight of her family off her back, vying for her money, is going to bring a different level of calm to her. I hope we see a little bit more of who she was at the wedding, right? I hope we see that, and I think we will. I'm really interested to see how her character plays. What do you guys think? Where do you think will happen with her in season 2 and 3? Let me know. You can email me by emailing the.sanditonchronicles@gmail.com. You can message me on Twitter at the Sanditon Chronicles. Same with Instagram, the Sanditon Chronicles. And you can find us on Facebook under the Sanditon Chronicles, Sanditon Family Fan Club. It's a lot to remember, guys. I try. Hopefully soon you'll see a pre-recorded intro and outro so I won't mess it up every time and you'll hear it. And by the way, you guys requested me to give you the list of the fanfiction authors, and I am going to get that guy to you guys today. So don't worry, that is coming. I think next week we're talking Lady Denham and Tom. And then Janice and I have got some things in the works. Also, we are in 2 weeks. Next week is Lady Denham and Tom, and then we're going to talk parallels and ironies. The week after that, we are going to be doing our first fan fiction. It is by Tracy. I think that's her real name. On Twitter, her handle is Tiny Toes Tracy. And on Archive of Our Own, I think her name is Relax Sea Bather, maybe? But if you go to her Twitter page, Tiny Toes Tracy, you will see she'll have a link there to her story. The first story we are going to cover is... it was Susan's plan on Twitter. So if you go to the first story on her Archive of Our Own page, go to the very first story she published on there. That's the story we're going to go over first. And then we're going to kind of talk a little bit about a crow encounter if we have time. But that'll be our first fan fiction. So get reading on that. It's only 9 chapters. Get that done so you can listen to what we have to say about it and interact and let us know. And on that note, we'll see you in a week. Bye, guys.